We'll give him trouble
He'll
later.
be here.
Terry, you can.
He'll
We
show.
know
It's
John,
till
and this is
6.
the way he
I know.
Is that the way of the world?
He's
Yeah.
on
There's been more than
HLP
a few
time.
occasions that have been planned around John's schedule, so
Yeah.
he could be there, Teddy doesn't.
It's called HLP time.
Yeah, that's happened. Okay, Manuel, come on in.
Come on, come on.
Okay.
Okay, well, you know, looking at the crowd here, there's some younger folks that I would guess maybe did some online app dating. Anybody in this crowd? Some older folks like me, I've never done it. A couple, yeah. Oh, okay.
Harry,
Oh, well.
middle people, like lots of boomers have done online dating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
my
yeah.
girlfriends have lived through it to tell
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
That's accurate, yeah.
Anyhow, I only did it once, but it worked out really well. I'll just.
No, his online dating was me inviting him and the board of directors to a meeting at the Vancouver Club so I could give them all, you know what, because it was not performing.
So anyhow, you know, when Victoria and I moved from Vancouver over here. We'd lived in Vancouver for a long time. And when that happens, usually there's 2 or 3 things, more than one thing drives that, right? And I had an in-house legal counsel that worked with me. I hired him in '86. He worked with me all the way through. He wanted to retire around 13, 14, Dave Merrick. And then we had
And then he worked with
an
us for
accountant
another 3 years.
who was a Kiwi, and she wanted Annie.
Yeah.
Annie wanted to go back home. And so Victoria and I's little ecosystem that supported us was kind of dwindling. Kids were moving around, and so I was, I'd fly over here on Monday morning from the coast, go back Thursday night, and I had a suite in the Sheridan Eau Claire for 18 years. So we sat down, and all these things were kind of
He
happening.
came home one night and he looked like he was gonna have a heart attack. His face was gray. He'd been flying, he went to Montreal and back, and Calgary back, then back to Vancouver. And I looked at him and I said, honey, we gotta move to Calgary. I don't wanna have to date
we
again.
decided to move. But what part of that is, of course, the 2 years before you move, you stop keeping your records correct. You stop filing your tax returns we had half a dozen companies amongst us, between Victoria and I. And so we got to Calgary, and CRA was,
Annual returns.
hey, Harry, when are you gonna file those goddamn tax returns?
No, not tax returns.
Well, and the
Annual
companies were
returns.
gonna be
The
strong.
annual returns, yeah.
Well, all of the above, right? So.
I always pay my tax.
Yeah. Anyhow, my one story about the online dating is we met you
Through the online dating.
through an
That's
online.
his online
It was
dating.
Kijiji, not a dating
Kijiji.
app, but that's how we met.
Yes, we did.
And you saved our lives.
Thank you.
And she came to work for us
Was a
and did everything,
blessing to
accounting
us.
and legal and
Has been
admin,
a blessing ever since we've met her.
everything. Yeah.
Helped us so many ways.
Yeah.
Never said, why are you so stupid?
And just got it all done in a wonderful way. So that's how
That's why
we,
we love her so much.
and we've become very,
Thank you.
very close.
Yes.
We've done lots of things together and helped each other in lots of different non-business ways, so it's quite delightful. So
Yes.
I would like to ask you to say a few things, but first,
First, yes.
her dad
My
said,
dad sent
sent
something.
a note,
A note.
and the note I want to read. Jennifer, congratulations on your graduation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to walk with you through the challenges of your studies, course by course, over the last 5 or 6 years. Thank you for the opportunity to walk with you and listen to the challenges that life brings to you and all of us. Thank you for walking a path with me a natural twisting, turning, one that included the opportunity to climb on a rock in the Muskeg River and fall in the river, but the river, thank God, saved you. Thank you very much for the nurtured resilience and your decision to walk with Jesus. Thank you for sharing the ceremony at Barbican in London, the time together at Canterbury, the first time for me, and a return to Paris. I had not been in Paris since '72. Enjoy your journey forward. So,
That was my dad, yeah. Thank you.
So Bill, right?
So
Bill, yep.
For everybody that knows
Love
my
Bill.
dad.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yes.
everybody that
Love
knows
Bill.
Jennifer.
Okay,
So
so
one of the reasons we did, because she's a Christian, and we're Christians.
Yeah.
We're not out there in your face kind of Christians, because we kind of swear and we drink a little sometimes, but we're Christians. Okay.
yes, and my dad, yeah, the Muskeg River story. So I was 16 and I had just got this brand new watch from Nana and Papa, and it was just a small shale face. And my dad's like, "Hey, I think we can make it across. Let's instead of going up top, let's just climb across the shale face." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Just as I was going to move my foot, he was like, "I think you've been on the piece of shale too long." Down I went into the river. I was more worried about the new watch from Nana and Papa
In your head.
than I was about anything else. And I still have the watch to this day, and it still works. I just put it away because I didn't want to hurt it. So that is the story. And then yes, I was lucky enough to have my dad and Debbie and McKenna come to London with me. They attended graduation with me, and it was such an amazing time. We toured around London, and then we went to Paris after, and Paris was a lot of fun because I speak French, and by the time day 3 came, nobody was giving me a run for any kind of money because I was fluent by that point in time. And there's a few things I would just like to say and acknowledge for everybody that is here today. I remember when I was first starting my degree, I said to a couple of people, "If it takes a village to raise a child, how many villages do you think it will take to get me through law school?" Patrick will remember that, I'm sure. Because I said it to most of the lawyers I had worked with. "I'm gonna need you to be my village." And my village, some of them just shook their heads and said, "You've got this, Jen." And then they would just smile and walk away, and we did it. Like, I could not have done it without everybody here and everybody that couldn't make it. So, yes, and I'm just gonna tell the story of my marks because it also has to do with my dad. So, I remember the morning my marks were coming out. I was so nervous. I don't think I slept maybe 3 hours because if I passed my last 2 classes, I was gonna be done. This was it. All my studying, all my last 5 classes in the last year would all pay off. I was up at 6 in the morning and I sat in front of the computer and I was like, do I check or don't I? Do I see if my dad can log in and check for me? Because he'd be up at 5 in the, at 6 in the morning our time. I was like, nope, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's find out. So it was 6 a.m. I found out I passed both classes, and the first call was to Dad. I called Dad in Newfoundland. He was the only person that would be up at 6 a.m. And I'm pretty sure I cried because it was the longest 2 months of my life while waiting for my marks, which everyone knows because they're all like, are you done? Are you done? I'm like, no, not yet. Have to wait. So that was getting my marks, and it was like this huge relief came over me. So that was the moment I found out which was gonna be the new step in my life, even though I'm still kind of in the same place because it takes time to get what you want to do together. The other memory I have were my 2 bags of books that went everywhere with me. They went on holidays to Kelowna. I think you've seen them, Auntie. More. Yes. They went to Edson. They went wherever I went. They went to the lake. I took them to the boat, and everyone would be like, are you bringing the kitchen sink? I'm like, I might have time to study. You never know. So I would haul 2 books around like they were tiny humans. And I would surface long enough to say hi to our marina friends, Bruce and Jackie, who are here today. And they will remember my studying. I would come out long enough to say, good morning, who are you bringing sailing, pet the dog, and go back into studying. So I'm so glad they're there. They're able to be here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
And I like to thank Tristan and McKenna. They have been huge through all of this. McKenna and I would sit and study in the office. She would have half, I would have half. She would do her thing, I would do my thing. And Tristan at the same time, he would help with studying, he would help with all sorts of things, he would make me snacks. So everybody kind of took care of me while I was doing this. And my mom and Rick and Dad and Debbie, who I've already kind of acknowledged weren't here, but they were always there in the background to listen or to ask questions. And I want to also thank Becky, who was here earlier. Rebecca, she had to leave with the tiny human, but she was always on the other end of the phone and would answer my questions, and she and I have become quite close over the last couple of years. I need to thank my papa, who's 99. Now, he would make sure that I studied, and he would ground my phone. If he thought I was spending too much time at work, on holiday, or too much time not studying, he would take my phone and ground it. So, you know, not many 40-something-year-olds will have your papa ground your phone. FYI, if you're ever studying, yeah, he would ground your phone. So I wasn't allowed to chat. He was very supportive when I had early morning study sessions at his house, and he set me up in the office. He'd be like, oh, you have a study session? We'll set you up. Here's the computer, lots of space. Take as long as you need. At 6 in the morning, he always made sure I was good to go. And I remember I was excited one time, and I was like jumping up and down, and he's like, it's a good thing the floors are wood, because you'd probably be on them. So, but he was so good, and he has been so helpful. And then over the last 10 years, I've had the privilege of working with various clients and lawyers who have become like family to me. I don't think I have any lawyers that I've worked with that I don't have a friendship with. And I really enjoy corporate law and corporate work, and that's how I met Victoria and Harry. Victoria was so lovely to work with, and I think I knew she would challenge me, and both she and Harry made me feel so comfortable that it has never felt like work. It's always just been such a comfortable environment to work with. They have the kindest hearts, and I'm so blessed to be able to be here with them today. And then there was Patrick. Now, I worked with Patrick in Gowlings back years ago, and Patrick and I had the most interesting trial experience. I got to sit in on one of Patrick's trials after I got accepted in my program, and it had to do with corporate and intellectual property, which interested me, and Patrick said yes. Unfortunately, I missed the memo on courtroom facial expressions. I learned at the end of the day that I was quite distracting. Not sure if it was how I was dressed. I was dressed in a really nice suit that day. My hair was all done. Or I know I can push the envelope some days when it comes to work clothes, but I learned I had to keep a straight face and make sure the defendant couldn't see me if I decided to come back the next day. That was my trial experience with Patrick, and needless to say, I learned a lot from that experience and want to say thank you. I know that I have to just try to do it's hard not to smile face.
Score the point! Score the point! Go, Patrick, go!
Yeah, that's my Patrick experience. And then I would also like to thank Emmanuel. Emmanuel is here today. Emmanuel would study with me for tort and EU law, as well as any other subjects that I needed. We would hit up his office, and I made him his own separate set of materials. So they were all surlocks, they were all indexed, they were all itemized, ready to go.
I'm shocked.
Ready to go. That way we each had something to work with. As he explained essays and outlines and examinations for me, and he'd sit there and make me write paper after paper after paper after paper on these various topics to the point where I don't think I wanted to see paper again for a very long time. Yeah, so I have to thank Emmanuel also for being here with me. And then there was Terry. I went out to the island last year, and I brought my bag of books, and I said to Terry, I said, okay, I said, I'm gonna do some studying. He's like, great, here's your manual for sailing tomorrow. He gave me a 29-page manual on the McGregor sailboat. He's like, hey, we're gonna go up tomorrow. You have to read this because you're all hands on deck. You're gonna learn.
Learn by doing.
Right, I think I got to about the 4th page and I was like, oh, this is a lot to learn in a night. So I also want to thank Terry because I worked with him at Daw Law before John and I went over to Mainwood. I worked with Terry for over 10 years. So I, yes, want to thank you. And he would always let me learn on my own, and there was never a moment where I wasn't learning something. And even when, you know, someone might try to do what Jennifer said, if they gave me the whole story, I could get you the right answer, but when I only get half an answer, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And then there's Hayden. Poor Hayden. Well, yes and no. Hayden was a younger associate, and because we both deal in corporate, I would often go into his office. I'm like, okay, do you happen to have one of these? Hayden and I would trade precedents back and forth. We would often do lunch things back and forth. We'd have corporate clients that we could help with back and forth. So sometimes Hayden was like my work go-to. Yeah, we did a lot of that. So I want to thank Hayden for that. And Hayden actually gave me stuff to help me through criminal. Criminal law was my nemesis. Everyone is well aware of that. I do not have a good relationship with criminal law. Not at all. So Hayden was very helpful, as was BC, who's not here today, in helping me pass criminal because it was not my thing. Maybe it's because I never went down that path. we did the other path instead. So I would like to say thank you to that to Hayden as well. And I wanted to just thank everybody else that is here. I need to thank Auntie Kathy and Uncle Miles. They would make dinners. We would trade Easter dinners and turkey dinners because I often had exams during that time. So she would make sure I had snacks, and that way I could just concentrate on my exams. So I need to thank them, and I need to thank also Auntie Maureen, who was also there for me at the other end of a text when everything was happening over the last couple of years. She'd always be there encouraging me, helping me along. And then I have my girlfriends Karen and Corey. They were always there checking in, making sure I was okay, and just good to go. As well as Nathan, Karen's son, and Ron, Auntie Maureen's husband. Like, everyone was there as my village. And the last person to thank is Daryl. Now, I don't think a lot of people know Daryl, but he was my door is just broken, can you please help me person? Or I need to dig something out of the garage, or I'm taking my Sea-Doo apart, or I need to winterize my Sea-Doo in the middle of a snowstorm. Do you mind coming over and helping me run antifreeze through it? So I really need to say thank you. He didn't so much help me with the legal, but he helped me with the life, so I could get back to the studying. So I just want to wish everybody here a huge thank you. I don't know what I would have done without all of you guys to get through this. And in my next journey, some of you know, some of you don't, I cannot practice law yet, but I have other things I'm working on. So I will be working hopefully with some lawyers in the future, but it'll be on a little different path. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's about it. Thank you.